I want you to think about this. What is the difference between an extraction shooter and a battle royale? To be honest, they have a lot of similarities and overlap. In both game genres, you usually play on a large open world map, loot and fight players for better items, and there's usually a PvPvE aspect to it. Actually, I would say that around 90% of the two game genres share very similar attributes. But it's that 10% in differences that really make extraction shooters better than the battle royale experience. But to understand why that is, we have to understand what purpose these game genres give in the first place. Game genres help us understand what type of game we're getting even before we see any trailers or gameplay of the game. Let's take, for instance, a story game, which the purpose of a story game is to tell a tale of an exciting and interesting situation, one that is, of course, enjoyable. Now we can take something like a competitive shooter, and the purpose of a competitive shooter is to compete against other players while trying to achieve a higher status, such as level or rank. Of course, being less enjoyable.
No! Come on! Come on!
But competitive games are a lot harder for games to get right, since every game can have a ranking system and a leveling system. It's not difficult. So your game has to be unique enough to stand out against the hundreds of already popular games. But when Battle Royales were first introduced in the late 2010s, they hit the unique experience for a competitive shooter. And there are a lot of reasons why Battle Royales took off. The first reason is that there is a choice for the player where you want to go and the risk you want to take. Say you want to go to a zone that has high loot but a higher risk. You can do that with almost guaranteed certainty that you will be sent back to the lobby. At least for me, because I'm not unemployed.
This is fucking bullshit!
Or you can drop in a low loot, low risk zone, where you take less risk initially, but you aren't as equipped to deal with players who took the high risk early on in the match. P.S. It doesn't really matter where you land, you're just gonna get shit on by some guy who hasn't gotten off the game since it came out.
A little bit. Do not try to revive.
Nah, bro, I got this. Okay, never mind.
So, Battle Royales took over, soaring to one of the most played game genres of all time in just a few years after the game genre was made. And to be honest, it makes sense why. Battle Royales did something different that we've never seen before. No longer were you confined to a map that had a ton of choke points and lineups. You're now playing on a map with sometimes up to 100 people in the same lobby on a huge open world map. You also had the aspect of variety, since there was always a unique variable at play. Things like where you would drop, what items you would pick up,
was the knight in shining armor,
and how many enemies you ran into all affected how you would play that match. One match you might have really good luck on spawns, so you might be more inclined to play it more safe. On other matches, you might be pretty unlucky, leading you to take more risky options like going for an airdrop. This variety added a lot to the game, since most of the competitive shooters like COD and CSGO have had a lot of aspects that wouldn't change game to game. The biggest variety that the games like CSGO and COD would provide was the players you either played against or that were on your team.
Oh, hell!
The final big factor of Battle Royales is that almost all of them were free, with the companies mostly making their money off of things like skins and battle passes. This allowed a lot of players to get to play a game with their friends to see if they liked it without having to shell out another $60 or $70 for a game, which we were all tired of at that point. And at this point in time, and currently in time, microtransactions were in a game whether you paid for the game or if it was free. It didn't really matter. You're getting microtransactions whether you like it or not, said Mr. Big Gaming Company. So for most people, the microtransactions didn't really bother them, and the companies just got more money out of it since the players would get into the door and then they would sell them on the skins, which then would make them money for longer than just buying the game a single time. And honestly, skin microtransactions for these free games are a good thing for the consumer as well. Not only is the consumer getting something that isn't affecting gameplay and is only for, well, what they want to look like, but it also keeps the servers on for longer and allows for regular updates of the game. See, when online servers games are a single purchase and they're not bringing in any more money, game companies can just decide to turn them off. Something like what happens in 2026 with Anthem. Basically, the servers are getting taken offline for Anthem, and the game is rendered unplayable. And although this whole part could be made into a whole another video because it's really crappy that game companies can make you pay for a game and then just decide to take your rights to play it away, that's a whole topic for another video. Right now, we're still talking about extraction shooters. But with the rise of battle royales came a rise to another game genre. That, of course, being extraction shooters. See, the idea of extraction shooters started off with games like The Division and DayZ, which both combine parts of survival, loot, and PvP. Now, although we consider these games to have parts of what we consider extraction shooters, they weren't really extraction shooter games. We actually wouldn't get a full extraction shooter game until we saw the release of Escape from Tarkov. And most people point to this game as being the king of extraction shooters, since it's still the most popular extraction shooter till this day. However, Escape from Tarkov is, well, a very unique game. See, Tarkov has this big problem for most people of being, well, to put it bluntly, the hardest game you'll ever play. Oh my god, what am I doing, chat? What am I doing, dude? He's behind me? Things like the game not having a mini-map, or really any good interactive in-game map. Actually, if you want to figure out most things in this game, you're going to have to either get a friend to tell you or just Google it, because the game's not going to tell you. So the game is pretty much not beginner-friendly at all, and it pretty much punishes you for being a new player. I mean, it really does. Especially like putting landmines next to a truck. How was I supposed to know that? So, for the first few years of these game genres being released, we couldn't really compare battle royales and extraction shooters. The battle royale genre were usually a fast-paced game, similar styles of AAA shooters that we've seen in the past, while the extraction shooter franchise was more of a realistic shooter, following the path of DayZ and Arma type games. Well, that was until the great expansion of extraction shooters. Games like Hunt Showdown, Arena Breakout, and Delta Force turned into huge player counts. These games are a lot less like Tarkov because most of them are mainstream games that anyone can hop into and just play without feeling like they need 1,000 hours to be semi-decent at it. And even though these games are extraction shooters, they feel a lot more like battle royales by having fast-paced shooting and having useful tools for information such as where you can extract on the map, giving the player a mini-map, and also having hit markers. I mean, that's crazy, right? These are things that Tarkov doesn't have, which makes it extremely hard for new players to understand what they're doing in Tarkov. But to be honest, even though these are all extraction shooters, I don't think these games will be replacing Tarkov anytime soon. Escape from Tarkov will always have its place as a realistic shooter, and I think it will pretty much always have the community that loves it more than any other game. It does the hardcore idea very well, and people love it for kicking them in the balls and they come back to the game. Including I do that too, I can't lie. On the other hand, I do think that these games will have a big impact on battle royales. See, these new extraction shooters do all of what battle royales do, but better. Like we went over earlier, battle royales share a lot of the same concept as these extraction shooters. You load into a map, do a bit of PvPvE, and you loot. However, I believe extraction shooters do these but better. See, most extraction shooters, you can pick any map you want, and on most of the games, they are pretty large maps, comparable size of battle royale maps. And if you don't feel like playing an outside map, you can pick an indoor map. Don't want to play in a map where you're in an open field? Pick a map with trees all around you. And I also think that looting is a huge factor in these, since there's a lot more reward to finding a good gun, since if you extract, you get to keep that gun and any other valuables you found in that raid. If you find a good gun in a battle royale, you only get to use it for that match. I also find PvP to be better because it's more intense. With loot on the line, you get a lot more anxious about losing all your good gear because if you die, you lose everything. Funny enough, we actually see a completely different game genre doing this extraction idea. That being Lethal Company type games, or as some would call them, friend slot games. These games are pretty much PvE extraction games. I mean, if you really think about it. You follow the same premise of extraction shooters, just without PvP. You go into a map, loot items, and then you leave with those items to try to make money. You're also usually going into a facility knowing that if you die, you're going to lose everything, so there's a lot of risk on the line. The only thing that's not really similar with it is probably the map, but I mean, everything else isn't. You're just trying to extract with gear so you can make money. Sounds a lot like an extraction game to me. Anyways, I think that the extraction genre will surge in popularity, while the Battle Royale series will begin to decline. I also believe that the new generation of extraction games provides more variety to each match, while keeping a lot of the original aspects of the Battle Royale series with more progression and a higher sense of risk. Overall, I think we'll be seeing a lot more extraction shooters over the upcoming years, and also a surge of them like Battle Royale series had, with a lot of these games focusing more on fast-paced shooting, kind of like the early stages of Battle Royales had. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing for more upcoming videos. I also stream on Twitch, where you can catch me live a few random days a week. It's usually where I get most of these gameplay clips from. And lastly, and of course, thank you all for watching. My voice hurts. Ow.